Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, to Face Palm Monday. I almost said Sunday, but today is Monday, and that's when I'm filming this video. It's been a very long time since I've dedicated any time responding to this channel in particular because I kind of gave up. But it was always my #1 requested video. You know, people always wanted me to respond to Anita Sarkeesian and every single new video that she uploaded. Because some of my most highest viewed videos and most liked and well-received videos are in response to Anita Sarkeesian. However, I kind of stopped doing that just because I lost interest in it and there wasn't a lot that I could say without already repeating myself and regurgitating information that's already been repeated 1,000 times, and I really don't want to dedicate my time to repeating information on this channel. A new video was uploaded on Anita Sarkeesian's channel, Feminist Frequency, and it is by the toy doll known as Jonathan McIntoosh. However, last week we had an upload on Feminist Frequency's YouTube channel, and it was not by Feminist Frequency or Anita Sarkeesian, but rather the toy doll behind the words that Anita Sarkeesian says. The scriptwriter, the producer, as I like to call him. Actually, I like to call him Jonathan McIntoosh, little McIntoosh, because he also goes by the name Radical Bites on Twitter. This guy is a character. He is a funny dude filled with incorrect and misinformation, and yet when I saw the video titled 5 Ways Men Can Help End Sexism, I thought, is this video actually going to be a good video on how men can help fight against sexism?
For many men, it can be hard to know exactly what role we can or should play in working towards an end to sexism.
And my question to you, Jonathan McIntoosh, is why should us men join a movement that specifically trivializes men's issues, and in many cases even degrades men and makes them out to be moral monsters? Why join a movement which doesn't actually tackle the issue that men face, specifically in regards to men who kill themselves? The suicide rates of men and men having mental health issues and killing themselves is 4 times that of what women go through. More male suicides are astronomically abundant compared to that of female suicides. Men's issues are highly trivialized, and I believe that feminism is a large part in doing that. And what's even more scary to me is that I hear and see these feminists on Tumblr, on YouTube, who bitch and moan more about men spreading their legs on a train than men who actually have mental health issues who are killing themselves. Why is it that I rarely hear feminists who are so vocal about manspreading ever even simply mention the fact that men are struggling deeply? And it's not just to a societal expectation, but also I believe how feminism makes men feel on a day-to-day basis.
How can men help, and how much or how little should we be helping? In this video, we will explore answers to those questions and share a few suggestions about how men can respectfully approach feminism and, critically, explain why it's beneficial for men to be involved.
Why should I join a movement that's all concerned about men sitting on a train or a bus and how they're positioned their legs, rather than the men who are losing custody rights of their child as of right now, as we speak, to a mother who verbally abuses their child, much less can't provide for that child? I mean, I don't even need to go into the whole details of child custody laws that women, for the most part, the majority of women get almost their children guaranteed with a divorce.
Feminism is a socio-political movement with the central goal of ending sexism and dismantling gender-based oppression. So contrary to common misconceptions, feminism is not about man-hating or female supremacy.
If this is the definition of feminism, then I'm on board with feminism because there's a lot of gender-based oppression out there against women and against men. But just you wait, ladies and gentlemen, guess what happens next?
As Bell Hooks writes in her landmark 1984 book, Feminist Theory from Margin to Center, like women, men have been socialized to passively accept sexist ideology. While they need not blame themselves for accepting sexism, they must assume responsibility for eliminating it. Men are not exploited or oppressed by sexism, but there are ways in which they suffer as a result of it.
Men are not exploited or oppressed by sexism. Next thing you're going to be saying, Jonathan McIntoosh, is that black people or any other person of a different ethnicity or skin color cannot be racist against somebody else. This is absurd. This is preposterous. Sexism against men, oppression against men, does not exist in any form.
That bears repeating. Men are not exploited or oppressed by sexism, but there are ways in which we suffer as a result of it. We are taught early on that boys don't cry. that to show sensitivity or emotional vulnerability is a sign of weakness. Men are discouraged from practicing nurturing, caregiving, compassion, and compromise for the same reasons. So there is an enormous amount of pressure placed on men to prove our manhood by acting tough, projecting strength, and repressing our emotions.
Now, this is one of the only points in this video that I actually agree with. When he was saying this, I was like, yeah, it's true. Society does have this standard that it places on men on how we're not supposed to show emotion. We're not supposed to have any emotional vulnerability. These are truthful things in which he is talking about. But then all I gotta do is go to Facebook. I gotta go to Tumblr. I gotta go to Twitter, and I see tons of women who trivialize this emotional vulnerability that men actually do show, if they at all show it to begin with. I mean, all those cups with male tears. I'd always like to think that that's a euphemism for actually semen. But the problem that I have with this is that these cups are basically mocking emotional men. Men who cry, men who show emotional vulnerability.
Okay, so if we're on board with ending sexism, what specifically can we do as men to be helpful? Here's our quick list of 5 tips for respectfully engaging with feminism as men. Listen to women. Now that might seem really obvious, but far too often men have a hard time just listening to what women have to say.
Up for the 50th billionth time, if you'd fucking listen. Can you shut the fuck up for a second too? Rape accusations discredit rape victims, which reinforces rape culture, which is part of patriarchy. The idea of certain people are inherently more valuable than other people because of superficial physical attributes is part of patriarchy. The idea that men should coddle and provide for women and or purchase their affections in romantic context is condescending and damaging and part of patriarchy. I'm reading, fuckface. The fact that women have long been shut out of dangerous industrial jobs by men, by the way, is part of patriarchy. The idea that women are too weak to fight or too delicate to function in a military setting is part of patriarchy. Is part of patriarchy. Part of patriarchy. I don't know if you're noticing a theme. Patriarchy. Anyways, I'm not done. Not done. Shut the fuck up. Feminists do not want you. Shut the fuck up. Let me finish my list. Patriarchy. 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 Feminists hate patriarchy. We do not hate you, fuckface.
And respecting women's knowledge and experiences. Because of the way we're socialized to think of our voices as most important, men have a tendency to interrupt and interject ourselves into conversations and then to dominate those interactions. This behavior is so ingrained that men often don't even realize we're doing it, which is why it's critical to learn how to take a step back, to try not to interrupt, and instead actively listen and absorb what is being said before responding.
Now at this point I just had to laugh. And why? Well, because he's talking about listening to women, how we should listen to women, and yet if you go to his video, right here, all the likes, all the comments are disabled. So you yourself, Jonathan McIntoosh, you're not even giving women the chance to be listened to through the comment section of YouTube. You cannot claim that you want people to listen to women, yet you cut off their access to be able to be listened to through textual responses through the YouTube comment section. There are plenty of videos here on YouTube of women responding to Anita Sarkeesian. Women dismantling her arguments and the things that she says about feminism tropes and sexism, and yet these same women cannot vocalize or be listened to through the comment section of YouTube because you've disabled the comments. I just find it really ironic that you would use this as one of your points, listen to women, and then cut off their vocability to be able to express themselves for other men to be listened to.
While feminist ideas do originate with women, that does not mean that it's the responsibility of every woman to teach all men about sexism. So we shouldn't go around interrogating or demanding answers from women. Instead, we should be proactive in doing the work ourselves by committing to continuous, lifelong learning.
You see, women are not responsible to present all this information to men, but if they do present the information and if that information is wrong or they have unsubstantiated claims, I have a responsibility to respond to that if I see fit. Responding to substantiated claims, to the non-mystical wage gap, for example. It is their responsibility as women to present accurate information as researchers, as artists, or whatever they are. You know, if you're gonna present information, you need to present it accurately. If you have unsubstantiated claims, it is my responsibility, I feel, as if I disagree with that, to vocalize that disagreement. And there's nothing wrong with that, and it is everyone's responsibility to educate themselves. I 100% agree with that statement. As for educating themselves properly, I beg to differ.
The place where men can be most helpful in regards to feminism is first within ourselves and then amongst other men. Patriarchy encourages men to buy into sexist thinking and at the very least remain complacent in sexism through our silence.
So what I gather from that statement there is that I can use patriarchy to justify my actions, right? So I can just say, I'm gonna go out and shoot some people. Well, I did that because of the patriarchy. I'm gonna mug this couple on the street. Patriarchy. One other thing that always blows my mind is how when people speak of the patriarchy, they don't do anything to actually demonstrate how the patriarchy exists. They just use the word in a sentence to automatically make people think that it does exist rather than actually substantiate it on how it does exist.
No means an exhaustive list of advice, but it should give you a place to start. Now, if you're feeling a little uneasy at this point, that might actually be a good sign. As men, the process of honestly re-examining our own assumptions and questioning our participation in sexism will often feel uncomfortable. But remember that even though we as individuals didn't create the system of patriarchy, it does manifest itself in almost every aspect of our lives, which means we do have a responsibility to challenge it. We must always recall our potential for positive impact in the world, and be involved in this work not out of personal guilt or shame, but because, as we've discussed in this video, the desired outcome is ending gender-based oppression and making the world a better place for people of all genders, including men.
You see, that's what I'm so confused by, is that your message is so convoluted with just contradictory stances. Like, this ending is such a powerful speech, in my personal opinion. It makes me want to believe what you're saying. Ending gender-based oppression. But then you go on to say things like sexism against men or men being oppressed doesn't exist in any level. You talk about wanting to challenge different perspectives, but I know from firsthand experience that if you challenge anything a feminist has to say, you're somehow looked upon and deemed as a moral monster. That's simply a disagreement, explain to someone why you think that they're wrong or the page gap doesn't exist or something like that somehow leads to you're part of the patriarchy. When you have conversations like this, there is no dialogue. There is no challenging, rather just dismissal of what someone has to say. And that's what the majority of feminism that I've dealt with is just people not wanting to have an actual conversation. I like the definition of feminism in this video about ending gender-based oppression in all forums, if that's what it's about. But your response to gender-based oppression is a one-sided thing, and I can't support a movement which only cares about one gender. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, my little reptiles, I hope you guys enjoyed this video response to Jonathan McIntoosh, but I would like to give a special shout out to Zach Madison, my Patreon, who pledged a generous amount, who, surprisingly enough, he actually makes videos. One of my biggest fears about Patreon is someone was going to pledge a certain thing, and then I promote them, and then they have no content to actually view. But Zach Madison, this guy right here, if you actually put your mouse over his face, if you could put your mouse over his face and click his face, and please check out his YouTube channel, he is a singer and a musician. He can sing and play the piano at the same time, and he has a love for Elton John. If you like piano playing and you like singing, please give his channel a shot, a view, but most of all a subscription if it interests you.
I'm reading fuckface